envoy.
Good afternoon, Special Envoy. Thank you so much for talking to Voice of America.
Always happy to talk to Voice of America.
Secretary Blinken told Senator Murphy during a Senate hearing on May 16 that the Global Engagement Center is working with the State Department's China House to counter China disinformation. And Secretary Blinken also said that the United States is now making available Associated Press, Reuters, and quote, other objective sources of information to countries. Can you provide more details on that? And what are other countries?
Right. Look, information manipulation is a major problem for the United States. It's a problem all over the world. I think we've discovered that in some cases China will provide its news service for free to certain news outlets, but say you can't use any other news service if you want ours for free. So we're trying to counter that where that happens, because the problem there is that you have often an African journalist or an Asian journalist, a Latin American journalist who's reading wires that are premised on the idea of Chinese view of the world, in which most things are reported accurately, but when it comes to the United States, all the bad news is emphasized. When it comes to China, only good news. That is a skewed view of the world. We have no problem with China putting its view across, Russia putting its view across, all countries putting its view across. The important thing is that it's attributed, it's transparent, so the marketplace of ideas can make the decisions. What is a problem is when Chinese support is not transparent, when it's behind the scenes, when there's a hidden hand. And what we at the GEC do is try to provide evidence for countries around the world when their information space integrity is violated. Just the way territorial integrity shouldn't be violated, information space integrity shouldn't be violated. And when it is, we need to call the Russians out or call the Chinese out. China spends billions of dollars on this project. We are, we're probably behind a bit in terms of their approach to the rest of the world.
The United States also has signed a MOU with North Macedonia to cooperate in the fight against disinformation, or quote, the manipulation of information. What does the United States try to achieve? Are there similar deals similar to the MOU with the North Macedonia?
With other countries. Well, we started with North Macedonia because in traveling there it became clear that they're concerned that their information space is being violated. Just the way the territorial integrity is important, information integrity is important. And what we discovered is that because RT and Sputnik still existed in Serbia, that was being used to disrupt North Macedonia. So what we did is agree with a memorandum of understanding with the North Macedonian government. And what these memos do is establish the will of another country to treat a problem with the same urgency that we're treating it. It's not a solution, it's a demonstration of will. Now it's up to us, working with the North Macedonia government, to give them the capacity to follow this information space integrity, to try to show when Russia's hidden hand is interfering in their information space, to try to give them tools to analyze this poisoning of their information space. So that means sharing best practices on free media, fact-checking, building resiliency. Our partners in North Macedonia and other parts of the Balkans, Bulgaria, Slovakia, have all told us they recognize this is a terrible problem they're facing. And what we want to do is work with them to make sure that when Russia or China or any other country interferes in the information space, that it is transparent, it is attributed, so that the hidden hand of these other countries can be made apparent. It's not wrong for countries to present their point of view, but it needs to be no longer hidden, it needs to be transparent.
So there will be similar deals with countries in the Balkans?
Well, we don't have an MOU planned for other countries, but we have the same intent planned with other countries. In my meetings with Bulgaria and Slovakia, they both expressed an interest in working with us to build their GEC-like capabilities. I work for something called the Global Engagement Center. That's where we develop the analytical tools to investigate violations of the information space. We want other countries to have similar tools. So we're going to give them technical assistance. We're going to provide them with support so that we all can have the same common operational picture. We don't want one country to be weaker than the others when it comes to the information space, because in the modern era, when one country's information space is violated, it can be picked up across the others. So it's a way of doing a kind of a coalition against the violation of information space.
In April, you visited Montenegro.
Yes.
You warned at the time of the significant problem of disinformation facing that country. The country, Montenegro, is going to have an early parliamentary election this Sunday, June 11th. Has GEC seen any indication or evidence that foreign actors are trying to meddle domestic politics of Montenegro?
I don't have any current information this week about what's been going on. What I do know is that Montenegro used to have a political relationship with Serbia. Serbia is the one place in the Balkans where RT and Sputnik are still broadcasting. Serbia also has Serbian language versions of RT and Sputnik. So if you're living in Montenegro, you can read Russian disinformation straight through in Serbian coming through Serbia. So it's not so much outside interferences in the election per se, as it is that we need to get RT and Sputnik not able to cause so much damage inside Montenegro or North Macedonia.
Speaking of election, China has been accused of meddling Canada's domestic elections. As the United States is heading to presidential election, how worried are you, and how closely is GEC monitoring foreign disinformation campaign trying to meddle U.S. domestic politics?
Well, actually, the GEC's mandate is overseas. There are the Justice Department, there's the FBI, there's the Department of Homeland Security. It's their job to make sure that there is no outside interference in our elections or other interference in the elections. The GEC's job is overseas. It's to try to combat disinformation and information manipulation in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in Latin America. We leave it to the domestic capabilities to deal with the American election. But I'm always worried when outsiders try to interfere in elections wherever they are.
And I recall that a senior U.S. officials has said that the State Department has held sessions on artificial intelligence, and there are discussions of the implication of AI to U.S. foreign policies. Is Global Engagement Center utilizing AI to counter foreign disinformation?
Not at this time. We haven't been using AI tools that I'm aware of. Look, AI is both a problem and an opportunity. Every new technology has great advantages and sometimes downsides. We discovered that with social media. We discovered that with all of the digital revolution. With AI, what I'm concerned about is when other countries who are putting out lies, who are putting out disinformation, who are using information manipulation, use AI to translate to 100 languages instantly. That's a capability that normally would take hundreds and hundreds of people. It's very difficult to do. It requires being culturally attuned to all the different countries. With an AI tool, yeah, it's possible that our adversaries will use that tool to do multiple translations instantly. That could be a problem. The best way to deal with AI is to develop what Secretary Blinken and others were working on, which is to work with our European allies to try to build authentication tools in place and to get the companies voluntarily to show that AI can be done in an authenticated way. What we're worried about is when it's used, again, through behind the scenes as a hidden hand to give a help to those who want to tell false stories around the world.
So is that fair to say that GEC is now ruling out the use of AI to counter foreign
I
disinformation?
haven't seen it being used in the work that I do. I don't think it's going to help me do my job because my job is detection and trying to detect the hidden hand. I'm sure there are people in the State Department and around the government that are going to take advantage of tools that can assist them in their work, but it hasn't been something that I've been using.
Will GEC issue any annual report sometime this year?
We have regular reporting to Congress. We will just recently issued a report on the Black Sea Grain Initiative, where Russia has tried to mislead the world about the causes of the difficulty in the food crisis. They've basically held back grain, increased prices, tried to make money off this, blocked ships from leaving the Black Sea and caused food prices to spike for their own advantages. We called that out in a report, and when we have new reports to tell you about, we'll be happy to do so.
Finally, Mr. Prigozhin, the leader of the Wagner Group, openly criticized the top leadership in Russia. Do you see this as a sign that Russian President Putin is weakening the control over information?
What I can tell you about Mr. Prigozhin is that sometimes he tells the truth, sometimes he exaggerates things. I think what it reflects is the difficulty Russia has had in achieving its own objectives. Russia has failed to achieve its objectives in Ukraine. Every day that's increasingly apparent, and they're all criticizing each other because they haven't achieved their objectives.
Thank you so much for
You're welcome.
VOA.
You're very
Special
welcome.
envoy.
Thank you. Take care.
Take
Thank you
care.
very much.
Yeah, and we would like to have some B-rolls.
Okay.
He's gonna walk. Hakeem's gonna do the walking shot.